Hello, everybody. GM.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to another Friday session with Gravity and Optimism. Every Friday, we do a special event for the Graviton training. And today, we have the beautiful V with us on stage. And one is of the core contributors to Gravity. Welcome, you all. Let's
I'm so
get
excited to be
comfortable.
here.
Yay. Thanks for accepting the invitation.
Of
I'm gonna give an extra minute to everybody jump in. I hope you all enjoyed this week's session around mental health. I had a lot of fun. Let's get comfortable where you are. Welcome to all different cultures, all different time zones, all different feelings and sensations. All right. I'm gonna put my camera on so we can have more of a one-on-one conversation, I would say. I'm also gonna share my screen. Awesome. So let's get started. If you're here, you probably already know that we are in this Graviton training on optimism. We started this month and we're gonna go until next month. So closing this session today, we have another 2 weeks to go. And we are talking about conflict management, culture, well-being, and so on. So we are talking about tools that we can get together to improve ourselves and help others around us. Today we're going to talk about the optimism agreements, and we invited V as the community core member of optimism to be with us, and she's the subject matter, so anyone better than V to talk about this topic today. Welcome, V. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome. Yeah. So maybe let's start doing this. I'm gonna share again this link here to the slide, so you can come and check. These are a couple links that we think it's good to have, and if you never read it before, maybe after this session, you're gonna feel encouraged to read it. And oops, let me. Okay, awesome. So yeah, why is it important for us to take this time to talk about social norms, understanding, and the optimism agreements today? It's one of those things that like it's over there for everybody to take a look and read, but we need to talk about it and reinforce for the best developing of the culture and the DAO itself. And it's important for us to also make you comfortable understanding the norms and understanding what to expect, what people expect from you, and so on. So, yeah, talking about the strength in the community and yeah, sharing this understanding. So, B, can you briefly explain the fundamental principles behind optimism now and why they matter to the community? Can you? Yeah,
Yeah. So, first of all, hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so excited to be a part of this Graviton training. I'm really excited generally for the nerds to be able to have facilitated spaces like this. So, yeah, okay, right, jumping straight into it. So, the foundational principle behind the Optimism DAO is to fix public goods funding. And I think if you guys have been around the community for a while, you'll intuitively kind of know this. But if you're a bit more new to the space or new to the optimistic DAO, like this is what we're here to do. We're here to try and fix public good funding, and we're really really serious about it. So we like to say we're retro PGF with a blockchain, and then of course we have the super chain vision and all that. But really the heart of what we're trying to do here is fix the imbalance that has happened under capitalism between people who create public goods and public infrastructure that everyone needs and the ability to make profit off of that, right? Because right now those two things are not the same. You can create great public goods and great public infrastructure, and often you will not be rewarded for it. In fact, oftentimes, there's a saying, "No good deed goes unpunished." And I think retro PGF, this idea of making impact equals profit, is really really important, and like we really need to build these systems that can actually sustainably fund public goods into the future. And I think that's what optimism we're really here to do. We're here to fork capitalism, fix public goods funding, and build out a super chain that's fun along the way.
that's awesome. I love this value of optimism to bring things together and have this new vision of how to fund public good. I think it totally makes sense. And from what I understand, there are two things in within the optimism, the optimist collective. That's the companies, the community that sits and working together to reward the public goods and build the sustainable future of Ethereum. And the Optimist Foundation that operates to support and establish the Optimist Collective. Is it correct? Is it correct to say that?
Yeah, so there's kind of three main elements and then one meta element to the optimism ecosystem, right? It's the token house, which is a traditional token DAO where your token power equals your voting power. That manages the like plurocratic governance, so it's managing the token, it's managing I think the treasury. I don't think we've announced that yet, but we'll get there. It's doing the plurocratic governance side of things. Then we have the citizens house, which is based on one person, one vote. So that's where we're really trying to counteract the plurocracy, the money governance that happens in traditional token-based DAOs, right? And that's how one person, one vote. And then we have the foundation, which is really just here trying to set up the DAO. It's like a very much work yourself out of a job kind of situation. And then I think in the long term, the foundation is really just going to be holding onto the real world assets that the DAO can't own until there is a better legal structure for the DAO to own things, right? And then there's the meta thing, which is the actual chain and the super chain and all of our incredible op chains, OP chains that are coming out. And the idea is that we're all part of the same collective with these two governance houses, really making sure that we are heading in the right direction, but also that we're doing it in a sustainable way, where we're rewarding those who have impact in our collective.
Wow, you covered it all. That was great. So, here in the training, we are working with the Optimist Foundation, right? Like we are taking care of the people that wants to improve their skills on conflict management, and we're here to help, especially the support nerds, um, yeah, to empower them. And with that, like there are some values for the Optimism DAO that we want to discuss today. And there are a couple of them. We talked about it a little bit before. And there is this principle of give to get, right? So about being generous and everything also flows. And we're gonna get it back. So it's like we give something, but we're also getting something out of it. So I guess my question for this value that we see in optimism is how does that principle give to get manifest in the daily operations of the DAO?
Yeah, I think so. The give to get value, as Bianca was saying so beautifully, it's all about like giving without necessarily like giving in order to receive. And I think this really ties into the whole idea of retro PGF, right? It's the idea that if I give my time to create impact in the collective, I will get back rewards for my time, right? And I think that's really like the core of it. And this is why I really was so excited to put this value first, because we haven't actually discussed the optimism values explicitly like this before. So hello, welcome guys. You're there, on the front row right here. But the give to get value is really like first and foremost, and it's all about like giving to the collective with the understanding and belief that the collective is going to reward your impact. And I think it's just a really beautiful way to kind of express being really bought into the vision of retro PGF as a value, right? Like if you are aligned with the give to get value, it's because you really think retro PGF is gonna work and it's gonna do the thing, and that these experimentations that we're running are heading in the right direction and are gonna get better and better. Which, not that I have a biased opinion, but I think they are. And it's a really beautiful value about being aligned and bought into the vision of retro PGF and making impact equal profit.
Awesome. And it's like a, I don't know if I can call it like no, never mind. But I was thinking about a different concept of it. Maybe in English doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's like this vision that we do first, right? And after the impact is done, and then we receive back like the value that we put on the time and the learning and the structure and everything like that. In this way, it's also easier maybe for other people outside of the community to see the actual impact that the project had, right? Because maybe in the early stages of like a project that's coming in, people are like, oh, is this actually going to work? But then when you actually get it done and running, people are like, oh wow, yeah, there is a value here, and we want to um make sure that like these people get rewarded for this project that was done.
Exactly, right. It's all about making that flywheel ecosystem where everything kind of feeds into each other.
That's awesome. And with that, I think we jump into the be audacious, right? It's like have that energy to build stuff and build a system, and yeah, just like you said, like impact equals profit. And then be audacious in a way that like maybe you have an idea and you want to build something, and just like share your vision and be humble in your execution. So what do you have to say about this part of being audacious? What is also the balance between being bold in a vision and remain humble in execution?
Oh God, you set me up so well. Yeah. So this value about being audacious is all about like having the balls, like the bravery and the strength to have conviction in your ideas. I think is really what it boils down to, right? Like, And I think this is so important, especially in DAOs, because while there's a lot of DAOs out there, none of these DAOs are like 100% functional. No one's got it figured out. No one knows what's happening. And as a result, we really do need to be audacious. We really do need to have like really scarily big dreams and visions and like ideas of how we can do this. And then have the audacity to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna try build that. You know, even though this is like think about this vision of retro PGF. This is a multiple like decades long vision. This is not a small thing we're trying to build here. We're trying to fix public good funding, not just in crypto, but in the world. And this is a huge, very audacious goal that we need to like slowly and incrementally build up to. But in order to even start slowly building up to it, you need to have the audacity and the belief in yourself and your team to be like, okay, we're going to try build this thing that is like scarily large and like a scarily huge idea, but we're going to do it because it needs to be done and we think we can do it. So that's the audacity I'm talking about. Like, don't be a dick. Never be a dick, guys. That's not good. But like to have the bravery and the strength inside to be like, I believe in this. So we here together, we're gonna build this. We're gonna build this fucking thing. We're gonna build this crazy big dream, and we're gonna try it. So I think that's the like the audacious part. And then I think the keeping it humble, right? Like how do you handle having such like a big vision without it kind of eating you alive, right? And I think this is where the next value comes in a lot. I don't want to go too much into it, but like just because you have a big audacious idea doesn't mean you need to be defensive about it. And I think this is where a lot of people kind of get confused in the like vision of like being audacious. Being audacious doesn't mean that I know better than you. It just means that I have a big idea, right? And I think this is really important, especially on the internet when you can't pick up tone from each other's messages. It can be sometimes difficult to pick up the subtleties of communication. Like just because I have a big idea doesn't mean I don't want you to criticize it. And like I want you to criticize it. Like if you think we're doing something wrong, you need to tell us. We can't smell if something's going wrong. And I think this is something where things can get a little bit messy, but this is where the beauty of building a community and building with other people comes in, is that we have this big audacious goal, but we are open to your feedback. We want your feedback. We are iterating on this. We know we don't know how to do it perfectly. That's why we take so much time to get feedback from everyone and why we have these reflection periods between governance seasons. So we can really take the time to be like, okay, we had this crazy goal. How did it actually go? How did you guys actually feel about it? Did it actually do what it needed to do? And did it actually get the thing done? So I think it's being audacious without tying the idea into your identity. It's being audacious without being like defensive of your idea, because it was a big moonshot. We have to be a little bit more like kind with each other about like getting feedback, and we're really here for that.
I love that about receiving the feedback, right? Because maybe, just like you said, you have this idea and you go and you are executing, putting stuff together, but maybe there is this other person that already knows a little bit about the topic that you are trying to develop. And then maybe they have a different perspective that actually is going to complement what you're bringing to the table. So I think sharing and yeah, have the humidity.
Humility?
And words are
I
just
got you.
yes, just complicated. To receive those feedbacks and then yeah, build stuff together, try to collaborate with other folks around you, and then you maybe like at the end it's actually gonna turn into something bigger than you are trying to build in the beginning, but it's gonna be beautiful because it's gonna be a lot of other people's idea, and maybe you were just like the first person to actually say something about it. What often we see, it's like a lot of people are thinking about the same topic and they're like, oh yeah, it would be so awesome if we could do this, but then it takes like one person to put this step in and say like, okay, what about if we do this, going this, and this direction? And then other people are gonna jump in and say like, yeah, what about this other thing we can do together? So I love this of being audacious. I think yeah, just like putting the flag there, and then other people are gonna come along, and maybe we just need like the first person to raise their voice in one direction so we can change like into good stuff in the world. I love this.
Yeah, you gotta be
It
you gotta have the first person who's brave enough to put the flag in the sand. You know, like um, you can't always like someone needs to do it first, and that's where the audacity comes in.
for sure. And being optimism, it has a lot to do with it, right? Like you have a vision, just believe it's gonna happen. If you have an idea, it's probably worth it to share with people. But I can see that there are also challenges um, in like staying audacious, especially in a dynamic ecosystem in a blockchain where just so many different projects coming up. So what can you say about those challenges of like staying audacious ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think staying audacious is a really, really hard thing to do. And I think if any of you in the audience here have ever been in the management team or like trying to set up or create a DAO, you'll know exactly what I'm about to talk about. But like staying audacious is really the hard part because as soon as you set a system out, as soon as you give people a system, right, there kind of becomes this expectation that if you change it, you're not going to change it a lot. Like, and especially in the tech world, we've set this expectation like versions will be different and they'll be bigger or smaller or whatever, but they're not going to be like a massive change from the previous version most of the time. And I think this is where the like having audaciousness and setting up a DAO is so important because we're running an experiment. As I said earlier, you know, like no one knows what a good a perfect DAO looks like, right? We're all still figuring it out. And because of that, we need to be able to be really, really audacious and be like, okay, last season we tried this thing and it really, really didn't work. And now we need to try something completely different. And that takes a lot of bravery from us as a team to be like, okay, well, you know, guys, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be completely different from the last season because that didn't work. And we can show you why it didn't work. And we can explain why it didn't work. And we put out nice, long, like, blog posts about like why it didn't work, why we think it didn't work, like what we think was specifically broken about it. Like we do our research, you know. But the idea is that like we need to be audacious and like keep being audacious in order to actually build a system that's going to be able to work for us. Because the kind of scale we're trying to build for here is not something you're going to get right in the first 100 iterations of it, you know. So we really on the inside try to keep the audacity alive and well because between each season we really need to be able to make big changes, and that takes a lot of bravery and it takes a lot of like strength to be like, all right, guys, like it didn't work, and like we're really good, I think, about owning our mistakes. You know, if we fuck something up, we'll own it. Like we'll put out a tweet, we'll put out a blog, we'll explain why it went wrong. But I think that's a really key part of being audacious because if you don't admit your mistakes, then you're not being audacious. You're being a dick. And remember, I said earlier, don't be a dick.
Don't be a
So
dick.
you know, don't be a dick. It's a really easy principle. It will serve you really well in life. But yeah, so you know, we have to keep that audacity alive between seasons in order to like actually be able to build a system that is going to be able to run at the scale we need. I think we do a lot internally to keep it alive by just being like, right, guys, does anyone have any like big ideas to fix this? Like, how can we incrementally improve? You know, so I think we do try a lot to do this. Yeah.
I like that. That ability of like learning from the past and just be able to receive even the negative feedbacks and transform that in something good. In like, okay, this didn't work. People are saying it was really hard to follow along with this, but how can we make this different and actually make it work? And I think another challenge that I can think about is like when you have an idea and people constantly say no to your idea. I think when you receive a no as an answer, doesn't necessarily mean that you should stop thinking about that idea or the project. Maybe it's just doing a little recalibration and do it a little different, trying to get more information, trying to get more people to join in. Maybe like receiving no in the first step that you're trying to create or change something, it can be really hard, but it doesn't mean that your idea it's not good or that's not going to work. Maybe it's just not the right time, or maybe you should talk to a different person or get a different perspective. I think a lot of projects in Web3, they receive no at the first steps. And yeah, recalibrating is something that we should also learn and maybe just change the path a little bit here and there. Yeah, that's a challenge if you want to stay audacious.
Mm, mm. Also, like sometimes a no no's can be good things. Listen to the no's. Why did they say no? Often that'll give you so much more information than a yes ever will. Because yeses can sometimes just be dismissive. Some people just don't want to talk to you anymore, so they're like, yes, fine, whatever. But like a no gives you so much information. Why was it a no? Did you think it was a bad idea? Do you think it's too early? Like understanding that can give you a lot of insight as well. Yeah.
100%. And then, like you were saying before, it kind of like mixed together with the next value that's intellectual openness. So this of receiving feedbacks, and it is important to be humility in receiving feedbacks, and then also encourage open conversations and this learning process that we are talking about. Yeah, having your idea, share with different people, and so on. But I can also see the conflict can happen if couple members have different views or perspectives. So maybe we can also share a little bit about that, like what happens when a member have a different perspective in the same project and they want to go different directions.
Mm, mm. So I think intellectual openness, I think, is a really, really critical value in our in our little value bubbles here that we're talking about, right? Especially with being audacious. Because if you're gonna have a really big, scary idea, it's so vital that you remain intellectually open. And what I mean by intellectually open is you're not tying the idea into your identity. You're not trying to get defensive over the idea. You're open to feedback. You're open to critique. You're open to like admitting you were wrong. You're open to saying, yeah, actually, maybe that was a bad idea. Sorry, guys. Like I just thought it would be good because of these reasons. And being able to openly accept feedback without being attacked and without like getting like all up in your head about it is so critical to building a system like this. This doesn't work if we all get really defensive and like, oh, he doesn't like my idea, so I think he's stupid, but really he doesn't like my idea because it's not like there's a problem with it, or it's not a good idea, or they don't think it's going to execute well. It's really important that we have this intellectual openness, because if we can't open channels of communication for like especially hard stuff, like when something goes wrong, being able to give that hard critique of like, you guys fucked this up royally, right? Like that requires intellectual openness. And from our side, it's so important that we can receive that feedback without getting defensive or getting aggressive with you guys' community, because at the end of the day, we're building this together. Like this is a partnership. So it's really important for us, and this is why it's one of like our core values on the inside is like be intellectually open. Be open to feedback, be open to critique, be open to having a conversation. Because without it, you're not building anything worthwhile. Like if you don't have external people feedback, it's not a DAO. Like it has to be, you have to be open, and it has to be humble, and like yeah, not
Yeah.
don't get aggressive for no reason. Take the feedback.
Yeah, it needs to be collective, but respect, it's like one of the core things, right? So share the feedback, share results, talk with everybody, but be respectful about it. Don't be aggressive. Try to see your wordings. And we talked last Friday about nonviolent communication. It's a brilliant topic to just meditate on. There's just so much to learn from that. In how can we effectively express our needs and our feelings and our emotions. So that is really important when giving and receiving feedbacks, to just not be aggressive about it, like we were saying. Yeah, just maybe be open to say, and just be like yeah, maybe my idea wasn't good. Yeah, but also
Mm.
saying thank you for like for this for those people that took the time and review your project and just be grateful that like you were there and you were able to say something about that and then people were listening to you and they're actually giving you feedback to improve yourself. It's not always a criticism that's um in order to shut you down. It's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, and there's one more thing I want to say about intellectual openness, which is it's not just a passive process. It's not just I'm going to put my idea out there and I'm going to sit back, and if anyone has a problem with it, they're going to come talk to me. A lot of the time, not. Especially if you think like, I know, so and so is going to have a problem with this project, then go talk to them about it. Because if you already in your mind you're like, oh, I know someone's going to complain about it, then go find out why. Because like if you also know that it can often be a good indication that you know there's a problem, you just haven't been able to put your finger on it. So going and like actively reaching out to people, especially people who have different opinions than you, is really, really valuable to being able to build a system that's actually robust, that can actually handle multiple cultures and perspectives, that can actually scale. It's so important to intellectual openness is not just a passive thing. You have to also actively go out and seek other people's opinions, because often people don't want to be confrontational. People don't want to come and tell you like, I think this is stupid because of A, B, C. So sometimes you do need to give them a little bit of extra encouragement of being like, hey, listen, this is a safe space. I'm not going to get upset if you think this is stupid or if you're rude about it. I just want to hear what you have to say. And then obviously there's also a little bit of skill in giving critical feedback and not being a dick about it as well. Again, general theme, don't be a dick. But it still requires you to open that space and to make a space for that to be a genuine conversation.
Beautiful. That's it. Um, what about when we say building the bulls? What does it mean in a context of optimism DAO?
Mm. So building
Just
the bulls. Yeah, it's a saying. It's like a sports saying. So I apologize in advance for those who don't watch American football. But effectively, what it's about building a team or building a process or building a thing that is going to win. It's going to be like the best, the best, the best of the best, the best anyone's ever seen. So in the optimism community, building the bulls, at least for this context, being like the community side of things, is about creating an environment where people can thrive. It's creating an environment where people feel welcome to give an input. It's where they feel welcome to have big, audacious ideas, to where they feel welcome to have intellectual openness. And we can actually build up this beautiful collaboration between people where everyone feels supported and everyone feels like a sense of belonging in the community and a sense of like alignment with the bigger goals and visions and a sense of loyalty to the collective as a whole. And I think we really try this out of all of the goals, I think is the one that you'll feel the most if you join any of the community programs, because we're not trying to pump our numbers. We're not like, if you're in the ambassadors program, or if you're in other communities ambassador programs, you'll know that a lot of ambassador programs are really just trying to get really big numbers. Like, it's not about quality, it's just like get as many people to view it as you can across the world. You just get views. And what we're really trying to build instead of like you trying to build our audience, because like that's not what this is about. We're trying to build your audience. So like if you've been involved in the most recent ambassador mission proposal thing that's been going on the Thrive coin, then you'll know like it's structured quite differently from regular programs. We're not trying to get you to push people towards our main socials. We're trying to help you push people to your socials, because we're trying to help you build up your audience. Because if you have a big audience, that helps us and it helps you. And we're trying to build this. Building the bulls is about building this positive sum game where we both benefit from you growing. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think we really need to like, it's a big culture shift we need to bring into Web3, where instead of everyone trying to get their like pound of flesh, everyone trying to like take things from each other, if we give things to each other freely, like if I give you a space and a platform to take your Mirror article and get it retweeted by an account with hundreds of thousands of followers and like that kind of like opportunity, it builds you up and it builds us up. And like that's what we're here for, right? We're here to help each other build something amazing. We're not just here to like use you and then discard you. Like we're here to build for the long term. And I think that building the bulls is all about like building for the long term with alignment and with everyone being on the same page. I think that was a bit of a rambly answer. Sorry.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. It's about this self-improvement, right? It's like when we you look at yourself and then you realize that you're not alone and you're in a team and everybody needs to work together to make this thing work. But I need to do my part and like how can I improve myself and help people around me improve themselves. So like we often has like see ourselves as leaders. So how can I be my own leader and maybe trying to look inside me and see what are the things that I could be working on. And this way, you're also going to help people around you to self-reflect and see what are the things that we can do together. So like you're giving them a perspective and they're going to work on themselves too, and there is this team collaboration going on. So for this big thing to work and go ahead, I also need to do that myself and within me. And yeah, and creating safe spaces for other people. Like the safe space, it's something that I just love. And I think when we create safe spaces, we're giving the people an opportunity to come and talk and share. But the safe space is always for it's also for that one creating the space. So if I'm creating a safe space, I am bringing to you the ability of just share and be with these other people around, but I'm also involved on it and I'm also gonna get from that space and those people sharing their experiences together and yeah, just being like continuous together and in this space like people can share their own ideas and just no judgment, no criticism, and this way we can like keep building together as a team, as a community, and yeah, just to this bigger idea that we have in common and we want to achieve. And
Picking up on the microphone,
talking about
but
uh, talking about this of like contributing to the community, I just love this phrase that you put together. I don't know if you put together specifically, but I love the phrase community isn't everything, it's the only thing, right? So I'm gonna
yeah.
leave you talking about that because I know you you love this part of
Yes.
it.
I'm here for it, Yeah, so this next value, community isn't everything, it's the only thing. I think it really just speaks to the attitude that we really try cultivate both internally and externally, that people, the community specifically, like you guys, you're amazing people here in the audience, you feel like a stakeholder. You feel involved, you feel consulted, you feel like you know what's happening. Like it is so important. It is not even just so important. It is like mission critical that the community is involved. Because what is a DAO? It's a freaking group of people doing things together. And a group of things, fun fact, is a community. Like a group of people is a community, right? So community isn't everything, it's the only thing. Because without the community participating in this governance, we don't have governance. We have some smart contracts and a bunch of documents. That's not governance. Like this is so like absolutely critical to everything we do. I think it's a little bit less important for the community because you guys know that you're like really critical. This is more like an internal thing within the team of being like of making sure that at every decision point that we're making, the community is considered. That when we're doing things, the community is considered and that they're being accounted for and held like space is being held so that they can actually have input. So the way this turns out, like inside internally, how this actually like plays out is, but when we're launching products, we go and do we go and do user research. We go and interview like hundreds of community members and developers and be like, does this tool work the way you need it to? Like, is this what you want? And when we're designing like, oh, how is this DAO going to evolve? It's like, okay, well, let's go get delegate feedback. Let's go ask community members what they think. Like it's about making sure that the community feels like a key stakeholder, because at the end of the day, the foundation's goal is to like hand things over to this DAO. And in order for this DAO to be functional, it needs to feel real. Like I think, sorry, I really am passionate about this one. The one side tangent, which is that like a lot of DAOs make this like really, really like painful mistake, normally quite early on, where they make a vote or they put something up for vote that's already been done, or it's not actually a decision that the community can make, right? And what this does is it just completely destroys trust in the community. If we put up a vote to move tokens or to do something, and we've already done it, or if you vote no and we still do it anyway, that is a complete desecration of trust between the community and the team and the governance, right? So like this community isn't everything, it's the only thing, is like the ultimate check and balance to make sure that we're doing things for the community, because at the end of the day, you guys are everything. You guys are the DAO. You like, we're all the DAO really, but like it only works if you guys want to take it and we've set you up to handle it and to take it. So yeah, a little bit of a rambly answer, but I think it's just so critical that the community feels like they are a key stakeholder and feels cared for and like understood.
Yeah, the DAO should focus on the community, right? If we don't have a community, what we're doing here? And the community is the energy that's gonna put this machine to go and run and do stuff. And it's a challenge also to take care of this community. Like all the community members should be together and caring about each other. And this is one of the things why we are here doing this, because we care about community members and we want to know what is the what are they feeling, like what is that that your experience being in this specific community. So yeah, it's like important for each member to connect with themselves, with one another, and then to contribute. And this is what gonna make the community to just thrive and be strong and be together. And these spaces that we can share with each other. And the Optimist Foundation cares enough to bring gravity down into the scenario and just give the people voice to be here and to be doing this and building this together. So they care about the community, and that's something that we can say like for sure. The community isn't everything, it's the only thing. And yeah, I guess it's still in the same topic. How does the DAO ensure that every decision made aligns with the well-being of the community? I feel that's also a challenge, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this.
Yes, that is indeed a challenge. I think the hardest part about this is that the community, as much as I say the word community, it's not just one giant group of people, right? There's lots of subgroups. We have the Grants Council. Shout out, Gon, I see you in the audience. Much love. We have like the Grants Council. We have delegates, like general delegates. We have the larger delegates. I think we call them recognized delegates. I can't remember if there's an official word, but delegates over 0.25% voting supply. We have the general community. We have the people who are in contribution piles, like the nerds, the ambassadors, the number nerds, the tech nerds. We have peripheral community members who are not really our community members, but they're members of our projects, right? Like our projects communities, because those are a part of the collective. So when I say community, it's like a really big, broad, like bubble word that's covering, umbrella word that's covering like 6 or 7 different, like really large groups. So the hardest part about making sure that the community is considered in everything is prioritizing which group this is going to affect the most, and therefore which group should have the biggest say. I think that's right now and will always be the hard part, because there are a lot of stakeholders. So we try optimize for which group we're going to talk to, who's going to be the most upset, right? So yeah, I think it's really important that we try talk to every group a little bit, and we try to talk to every group all the time, but we can't always bring in every group and to like do the level of like stakeholder feedback that we would do for a smaller subgroup. So if we're going to do something that's going to affect the grounds council, we go talk to the grounds council. If we're going to do something that like affects all of the major delegates, we go and talk to the major delegates. So that's how we try to balance it, because it is such a hard thing to do. And generally, I think a lot of it's also just like, before we even go and start talking to users, just like thinking through the incentives that we're creating. Do these align with our bigger goal of where the community should be? Does it feel right? Like, is it aligning with the values of everything else that we've set out? And then, once it's kind of passed through those stages, then starting to do community interviews and making sure that everyone feels heard and that we've considered all of their angles, or at least as many as we can, to make sure that decisions and things that get rolled out actually do benefit the general community.
Awesome. So basically, like, be aware of how the decisions are going to impact the communities in like different levels.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
that's a really good answer. And the last value that we talked about was the interact quickly. So the important continues in the interaction with the projects, between the projects, and aiming for progress over perfection. What do you have to say about this topic?
Yeah. So this value, just to be very clear, is iterate, comma, quickly. So what we mean by this is like build a thing and then get the thing out as soon as you can in front of real people, because you can sit and look at it all you want. It's not going to give you real feedback about how it functions, right? So build your thing, get it out there, and then iterate. And what we mean by iterate here is not just like, okay, go build a new version. It's like, go and talk to the community, go talk to the stakeholders, go see who had problems with it. What were their problems? Why did they have that problem? Is there like a more fundamental problem that causes all of those problems? Or is it just more shallow? Like, iterate quickly. So build the thing, get it out there, get feedback, and then change it and fix it and improve it, right? Because I'm saying, you can't like continuous progress is so much more valuable than building something perfectly or doing something perfectly once, right? This is also why we do multiple airdrops, right? Because we were like, there is no way we can distribute all of these tokens perfectly, not even pretend perfectly the first time. So instead of trying to even pretend that we were going to do this, because that's bad audacity. We were talking about being audacious earlier, like being audacious without a reality check is delusion. It's not being audacious, you're being delusional, right? So you have to be a little bit tethered to reality. So we're like, we're not going to get it perfect the first time, so let's iterate. Like the way we do governance with the seasons allows us to iterate because there's these discrete time windows that make it a bit easier to kind of process iterations. So really it's built in fundamentally into all of the systems that we roll out, is this idea of iteration. Like retro PGF comes out in rounds. It's not a continuous thing. Governance comes out in seasons. It's not a continuous thing. We even have cycles within those seasons so that there's always discrete time units that allow us to iterate. Because we've also found, and this is all Justine because she's fabulous, and I'm just here trying to make her vision work. Is that it's much easier to iterate if you do have discrete time periods. It's really, really hard to iterate if you've got this continuous process and you're like, okay, we're going to fundamentally change it. And everyone's like, okay, but we're using it. But if you have these beautiful discrete little time periods, then it becomes much easier to be like, okay, at the end of this discrete time period, we're going to edit it and modify it because we need to iterate. So now we can go into the next one with a better understanding. So it's like really designing systems that can iterate quickly, because that's also a really important part of it. Not that our governance is quickly, but for governance, if any of you have ever worked in TradGov, then you would know that this is actually just incredibly fast for governance. So if you've worked in TradCorp, you also know this is like incredibly fast iterations. Once every 6 months is still very, very fast. It just feels slow for crypto because everything here moves really quickly.
That is true. It's really awesome to see how the values kind of like they mash up together, right? Like there are so many areas and like that they just merge together. Like the values is not only one separate thing and then it's like, okay, let's do this and be done. They are integrated with the other one. So like one can only work with the other. Yeah, perfect. That was yeah, exactly. So you cannot be audacious and not be intellectual open. So yeah, they just like come together and it comes like this beautiful form of how yeah, how the optimism works. Just like maybe I don't know if I can say in general, but yeah, just like this the bedrock, right, of the optimism.
Mm. Yeah, bedrock. Yeah, like they all work together. I think trying to distill values to like two or three values is just not realistic. Like I think we have eight right now. I think eight's a good number. Like this allows us to have these values that like okay, hold on. Very random side tangent. Well, not that random. Very relevant side tangent is that a lot of communities and a lot of DAOs have they make these values.
Oh, did V froze for all of you or just me?
She
Oh
froze
no.
for me too.
Collective because you can use these values to go oh, am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Hello people, I'm
Hey,
back.
it sounds like you're back, but I don't know if we're back for you. Are you there? Can you listen? Can you hear us?
Okay, just let me know in chat if you lose me again. I can't hear you. Okay, great. So the idea is that these values can actually help you make decisions. Because let's say you wanted to roll out the next season of governance. It's like, okay, community isn't everything, it's the only thing. Have you consulted the community? Have you thought about what they're going to think? Have you checked the incentives? Is this an audacious idea? Is this actually an iteration that's worth putting out? Like, is it a big enough change? Are we going to get valuable data from this? Is it a good iteration? Like, we got previous data that we're building this on, or is this a completely new guess? Like, are we building the bulls? Are we building up people in the community through this program? These values actually let you make better decisions for the collective. They're not just like what do you call like posters? They're not just like things to put up on the wall. They're like actual decision making tools to help you make sure that your decisions are aligned with where we want to go. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that people like. It should be more actually decision frameworks. They're not just words that you say occasionally.
That's great. I think, yeah, I love the values. I love what it brings to the table. I think it has a lot of um, value
Oh no.
on those values. Um, and yeah, I hope like everybody could get like an idea on like or at least a better understanding of where optimism is coming from. And we also want to like briefly talk about the social norms and policies. So there in the slides, I put down the code of conduct that applies to all the community spaces and yeah, any individual that's representing the community in public, online or offline. So that code of conduct applies to everyone. And then there's the rules of engagement that applies to everybody using the Discord, the Reddit, and just interacting with others. And we want to encourage the support nerds, specifically to feel empowered to go there and talk if you see someone violating um, those norms that it's out there. And yeah, we want to encourage you to feel that you have the agency to, yeah, call those people. And here we want to say, like, call them in, don't call them out. Um, it's a term that, like, you're gonna interact with those people. So, like, if you see somebody that it's being aggressive or they're just like talking about people in a very not nice way, being a dick, call them in. Don't call them out. So get that person, try to talk to them and say like, hey, what is that you are experiencing. We want to know, like, why are you being aggressive towards this project or towards this person? We want to understand your needs. So call them in, like, try to get connected with them. And because usually when somebody is being violent, it's because there is a need that's not being achieved. And this way, calling them in, you're going to understand what is that need. And then that person's going to feel heard. And maybe that person's going to realize that maybe the problem it's not the project, or maybe it's the person that they're attacking. But yeah, this is like we want to encourage everybody in the community to like talk to those people. Don't call them out, don't banish them, don't report them publicly before you call them in. So yeah, this is also a thing that we would want to encourage you to do, and feel that you have the support that you need to. So if you are connecting with that person that's being aggressive and violent, and if you feel that like maybe yourself alone, you're not going to be able to talk to that person, um, try to ask for help for somebody else in your team. Try to come with another support nerd, and maybe you two together can think about a way to talk to that person and, yeah, interact with them. And maybe together you're going to find a best solution. So, again, community is everything. You're not going to do this alone, you're not going to do this by yourself. We need to try to be more connected with one another in order to make progress and make this environment better and leave it better than the way that we found it. I think it's also like a good principle to have. Hey Juan, it's you up there.
Yes, that I look that we're getting to the top of the hour, and we really hope that you have enjoyed this space. We are also going to be sharing a QR to claim a POAP, and I feel it's been a beautiful space because I feel very related to everything that is happening, and how our experience interacting with optimism somehow has summarized these principles. We were audacious enough to say and to propose an RFP, saying that we could support um, solving or meeting a need around improving conflict management processes, and that also somehow um, takes us to the iteration where right now the code of conduct violations are processed by the foundation, but within this iteration of governance somehow the foundation wants to give out that conflict management role more to the community and empower more the community, and that's what we're doing. We're iterating here for the governance, and we are trying to give tools for the community to be more aware in their participation. And like, how are you going to enforce a code of conduct if you don't raise awareness about it? It's important to know the values. It's important to know how to participate so that people feel, yeah, um, in place, and that they know all the rules and boundaries, and they know how to engage, how to interact, what not to do. And yeah, it's been a beautiful session. Um, and we've talked a lot about values, but yeah, I will let you to close in these last minutes.
Thank you, Juan. And yeah, a lot of you asked how to contribute, how to support. This is a topic that it's in this document, contribute to optimism. So do what you love. Real impact stems from passion, a love for what you do. Fix the problem in front of you together. So if you see something, um, share with somebody else and try to solve that problem. Um, yeah, as a team. And do it with optimism. Be kind, patient, and optimism in everything you do. And I think maybe we leave you all with this message. And I'll also pass to you, V, if you wanna say something in conclusion of the topic today.
Yeah, so I specifically wanted to answer Pip's question. So yeah, definitely go check out that contribute doc that we just shared now. Like these three things: the doing what you love, fixing problems together, and doing it with optimism are really, I think, the core of it. But in terms of like directionally, how do you like how can you actually decide if what you're building is going to happen? You should check out the collective intents. These will change slightly from season to season. They might change quite dramatically next season. Again, we're iterating. But these seasons should be like your north. These it's not seasons. Oh my gosh, these intents should be your north star. These intents allow us to align the whole DAO around common. So these intents are really like that. If you're building towards this intent, you're on a really good track. So build towards the intents. Go check out the ways you can contribute. We have paths if you want a little bit more like hand holding to get into the collective and to really understand what's going on. We have lots of programs you can join. We have the ambassadors who do like grassroots marketing and campaigns. We have the sub nodes who do user support and moderation. We have the tech nodes who do technical support. We have the number nodes. So if you're good at analytics, we have something for everyone. Like there's lots of ways to get involved. And if you don't like any of those specific things, you can just do what you think will help. As long as you think it aligns with these intents and follows these principles that Bianca has here on screen, then you're good to go. And like that's the beauty of a DAO. Like come have impact and get rewarded. And that's the beautiful vision of Retro PGF.
Awesome. Thank you so much, V, for sharing your wisdom with us this morning. I love to have you here. I love this conversation. I think there's just so much for us to still be doing together. And sharing the values, it's like something that we need to do, right? Like we need to talk about this, we need to share the vision, we need to put it out there and give it to the people, right? Give to get. So like giving to everybody this empowerment. And I hope you all enjoyed the session today. If you had like any extra questions, I encourage you to drop in a chat and then we'll answer it along. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. Make sure you get your pull app. If it doesn't work for some reason, let us know. Maybe text one or me myself, and we can help you out with anything you need. Yeah, there's the Gravity DAO training chat. So maybe let's go over there and keep the conversation up.
Yeah. So thank you all for coming. Much love. Stay optimistic, and I'll see you on chain. Sorry. You gotta end with a bad pun, otherwise it's not an optimistic call if you don't have a pun somewhere. Like, yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today with us. Love you.
Okay, cool. Bye.
Bye.